Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we are back. Episode 125 with Everett Lee. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you are watching us live on the chat, please help us out with a like, share, comment, subscribe, the whole nine. If you're watching the replay back, do the same thing. A review goes a long way. If you're listening to this audio platform only, just leave us a review on whatever platform you have. Like I said, it helps us go a long way. Before we get in and let my guest introduce himself, let's go through our Patreon. Let's get rid of the housekeeping stuff right away. So Patreon, it goes from $1 to $25. Anything over $10 puts you in the running for a free T-shirt giveaway. And like I said, it helps raise some money for equipment, pays for things like StreamYard, Adobe Premiere Plus, and all those other great apps that we use to keep this ball moving. We want to thank Ryan Vox from Outbreak Wrestling, David S., Brett Squared from the Cake Stand in Money City, Bridget M., Andrew H. from Bang & Beers Podcast, Greg R., Heidi B. from Not Cool in High School, Ryan G. from the Fueled by Haas Podcast, Kelly from Crystal Mountain Healing and Truth Behind Illusion, Tommy B., the Tree of Life Metaphysical Shop, which we have an ad read for as well, Brad Z., Higher Than Other Words Podcast, and JH. So thank you guys so much for the support. It means the world to us. And like I said, you can always go to IwEPnetwork.com, check out the rest of our amazing shows we have. We have a little something for everybody: pop culture, pro wrestling, interviews, spooky, paranormal, best friend podcast, spirituality stuff. There's something there for everybody. And if you want to be a guest on this show or any of them, just head over to the website, click on the show. Up top, it has a guest sign up form, and it's pretty simple. If you do sign up for this show, though, we are booked to like August, so I have a lot of bookings. So I want to thank everyone who has signed up, but please do not let that hesitate you. The quicker you sign up, the quicker you get in line for the next episode, or if someone pulls out, we can always get you in. Right now on Facebook, someone is using my account, so that one don't count, and the other one is you. So we have 2 likes on Facebook, and they're both for people that are on camera. Yeah, so like I said, if you are watching live, share, like, tell your friends, the whole nine. But Everett, what's going on, bud? Introduce yourself here.
I'm Everett Lee of the Everett Lee Show and one of the co-owners of Podcast City Network, LLC.
LLC, look at you guys, fancy pants over there. Now, how long you been doing this podcasting thing?
I've been doing it for 8 years. I've been podcasting for 8 years since 2014. April 2nd was my 8-year anniversary, and it creeped up on me. Well, last year it did, but this year I caught it before it creeped up on me, because last year it was a few weeks afterwards. I'm like, oh man, I forgot. I was like, throw that out there, let people know it's like, hey, 7 years, but I was pretty much aware of like 8 years this year, and I was like, man, 8 years of podcasting.
That's nuts. Yeah. How many do you just do your one show, or do you have other shows you're a part of?
Well, I started out, I mean, right now I have the Everett Lee Show. I was doing ELS Uncut, and ELS Uncut, Everett Lee Show Uncut, was more of I tried to make it more like a Howard Stern type like talk, where everything was just uncut. And I did that for a while. And then back in 2020, towards the end of 2020, I brought it back there for a little bit. And then a lot of stuff started happening. Like right around October, my best friend of 11 years passed away. And he was like my number one fan when I first started, because 2014, when I started out doing podcasting, when I first told him about it, and he's like, first thing he said was, what are you going to talk about? And I said, wrestling. At the time when I started out, it was just talking about WWE, movies, video games. And he said, I'll listen to it. I was like, cool. That's all he said. And he would listen to it. He would tune in, and he liked the guest I had on and the stuff I talked about. And it was just one of my biggest supporters. He passed away. He had a heart attack, 42, passed
Jesus.
away. Yeah. He passed away, and it was just, it devastated me, man. And then I took a break from doing podcasting from October all the way up till February of 2021 during that time there. And it was hard, man. It was hard because losing someone that was close, that was like a brother to me, man. And he was supposed to come over and hang out the week before. I mean, like just to hang out and just watch, I think, pay-per-view. And he passed away the following week. And it just, yeah, it
Yeah,
hurts.
I've unfortunately lost so many people to cancer and drug overdoses and all that horrible stuff, and it's honestly one of the reasons why I started this interviews with everyday people is because there's so many opportunities you had where you're like, man, I wish I can go back and just listen to them talk or hear their story or so I like to hear people's success stories and hear how they came out of the other end and can honor other people and that's the huge reason why I did this and kind of what you're similar with your Lee Everett show. Like this almost became just like everything I'm into. Like one week will be an interview, then it might be me talking about wrestling and this and like, and then I was like, maybe I just like make the other 5 shows and bring friends in and keep this kind of separate. But yeah, it came real close to that. But yeah, it's crazy. What now you kind of said Howard Stern there, which was one of my early adaptations of talk radio and got me that would kind of spark my gears to do this. But how did you find the podcast space and who are some people you listen to that you're like, man, I want to dive into this?
When 2014, I wasn't really doing anything. I was like a year before in 2013, me and my wife got married in 2012. We stayed at my mother-in-law's house. She was like like my second mother, my mother-in-law, my wife's mom. She let us stay there, and a year later we saved up enough money and we went out and got a house. We bought a house, and thank God it was during that time when everything was low, because people still get mad about us when we tell them our interest rate on our mortgage. They're like, what? It's like, yeah, man, we bought when no one was buying, when they were giving them away. So we looked out in that, and I was working graveyard. I was working a graveyard shift, Sam's Club, working in the freezers, working 10 p.m., 6 a.m. shift, and playing video games, PS4. I bought a PS4, playing Destiny. That's when that first came out.
That's Grand Theft Auto right there.
Yeah. I got hooked into that, man. And then in 2014, when that started rolling around, I was still keeping up with a lot of like talent at one point that was in WWE. Like, for instance, Stone Cold Steve Austin. He started to mention he's doing a podcast. It's like, what's a podcast? So I jumped on there and started listening to him. And I'm like, dude, this is great. Hearing conversations, hearing him talking Shawn Michaels, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and just to name a few right there. And I'm like, man, this is great. I was like, is there any more like this out there? And I searched podcast and all this stuff started coming up. And I was like,
the list of Jericho shows up. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 1,001 wrestling podcasts. And yeah.
So I said to myself, I was like, wow, there's people like me out there talking about different topics, movies, to music, to wrestling. I'm like, at that time, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to talk about wrestling, video games, and movies, which I love. So I told my nephew about it, and my nephew, same reaction. What the hell's a podcast? And I explained it to him and showed him, and he's like, I'll sit in with you. You know, I was like, cool, got a co-host. All right, got something to talk about. All right, what do I need? So I look around, I was like, got my laptop. All right, I need a microphone. So I ended up picking up Rock Band microphone. And I was like, I plugged it in and I used Audacity and to record my first podcast with my nephew. And my first podcast was Everett's Hangout. I didn't know what come hang out. I got the idea from that 70s show when they're hanging out there in the basement, doing a little, because that's one of my favorite shows there. And it went on for about 73 episodes. I did about 73 episodes, but around that time, around episode 40, around almost getting to 50, I started, my nephew left and he pretty much wasn't into doing it. My nephew, I love my nephew, but he likes to start something and then take off, start something else, take off. So I was like,
I have that problem. It's called ADD. Yeah.
He does. But so far he left, and I told my wife, I said, this is great, but I don't think this is for me. And she's like, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to record maybe one or two more and just call it quits. That's it, and just move on to something else. So about that time, I was on Twitter. I revamped my Twitter from my podcast, and I started getting people following me back and forth. And they had this one independent filmmaker, Jack Thomas Smith. He hit me up. He followed me, but he ended up messaging me one night and said, "Hey, want to do an interview?" And I was like, I told my wife, I'm like, he wants to do an interview with me. What do I do? And she's like, find out who he is, find out what he does, just do research. So I was like, okay. So I dug in doing research. He was promoting a movie at the time called Infliction, which is based off of a story of two brothers in North Carolina that kind of go on a killing spree, but he was promoting that. So I hit him up and we knocked out the interview. But during the interview, listening to him talking about the passion and everything that he was going through, making this movie, trying to get it out there, it like clicked with me. I'm like, you know what? If he has the same kind of drive for independent movies, I can do this with this podcast. So it inspired me to keep pushing forward. But after I did 73 episodes of Everett's Hangout, I wanted to change it up. So I did a short-lived 10 episode, only 8 episodes were published of Off the Corner. I just threw out, a name there. And during that time, I was, same format, but sticking to like one subject each episode instead of talking about a lot of things during the episode. But during that time, my wife, she was 21 weeks pregnant with her son. And it was right around Christmas. I mean, after Christmas. And right after Christmas, her water broke 21 weeks. I rushed her to the hospital. And it was right around New Year's Eve, New Year's Day when this happened. And we went to the hospital and I was in there with her. And we called my mother-in-law and told her what was going on, because doctors came in and said, your son's not going to make it tomorrow, which was on New Year's Eve. So we called my mother-in-law. My wife called her mom, and she said she was going to come out. January 1st, 2016, I lost my son. 21 weeks. I lost Zachary. He didn't make it. And my mother-in-law wasn't at the hospital. So I left and went to her house. And I went to her house, and my wife's uncle showed up at her condo. Her car was there, doors locked. We couldn't get in the house. My brother called, who is works for the fire department, and said, "Hey, what's going on?" I heard, I was like, I need to get my mother-in-law's house. I don't know if she's in there. So fire department came, the cops came. Thank God one of the cops that showed up was someone I grew up with. So that helped what was going to happen next. So they busted the door open, and she was found, she passed away that night. So on January 1st, I lost my son, and I lost my mother-in-law on the same day on January 1st, 2016.
Jeez.
Yeah. And it was hard just going back to the hospital and just telling my wife, man, just like,
yeah, she just lost her mother and her kid. That's fucking heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it, instead of it, driving us apart, it brought us closer. And there for a while, I put the podcast on hold, and I got into like drinking really bad. I would stay up late at night for about couple months. I would stay up like late at night. I'd go outside and look up and just like bawl my eyes out. It's like I lost my son, I lost my mother-in-law, and it just killed me, man. It just killed me. And I snapped out of it. I got back on track there. We went and we went to a psychologist, to help, and that kind of helped. It helped my wife more, didn't help me. But
Yeah.
After that, I pretty much was like, well, I'm done. I had 2 podcasts that did okay, but not really where I wanted it to get to. And I was like, I need to revamp this. Time for, time for a reboot. So I said to myself, I was like, all right, what am I going to do now? And I decided I should just do interviews because people love interviews. People love to hear stories from people. And so I decided that's what I'm going to stick with. Just interviews and have guests come on and more guests and do talk about here and there about, stuff in between. So I needed a name. So I was trying to think, what am I going to name this new podcast? And I just was looking at my name, and my real name's Denver, which after 43 years, I can't stand that name. I can't stand it. Honestly, I get poked at and teased at all the time about it. So I get
how did they land on Denver?
It was my uncle's middle name.
Okay.
It was, yeah. I have a brother named Dallas.
So immediately, you ever seen the movie Four Christmases? When they're like, why is his name that? And like, that's where he was conceived. Like,
yeah,
it's your brother Mississippi down here.
Well, that's like my daughter Callie. Her name,
crap,
yeah, Callie. It's spelt with a K, not a C. It's short for California.
Yeah, there you go.
But
if I was looking, I'm gonna name him Skook. That's what we call our area up here, Skook County. Hilarious. Yeah.
So I was looking at my name. So Denver Lee Everett. What am I gonna do with this? So I was like, let's drop the Denver. How about Lee Everett? I'm like, no. I was like, I flipped it, and Everett Lee. I was like, there's not many Everett Lees. There's a lot of Lee Everetts, not many Everett Lees. So now, I was like,
do you have situations where you go out and people are like, or they talk to your wife and like, oh, Everett's really cool, and she's like, who's Everett? Like, does she call? Because she's used to. Does she call you Denver? Does she call you Everett?
Yeah, she calls me by my real name. She does.
So I on social media I usually go by Anthony, but I would say the people who are close to me call me Tony. So we'll be out and somebody go to my wife like, "Yo, Anthony's podcasts are doing really well," and she'll be like, "Who?" They're like, "Anthony." She goes, "Who the hell is Anthony?" And like, your husband. And she's like, "Oh yeah, Tony." Sorry, I'm not used to the Anthony thing. Like, it's kind of like, and I know it's not like I don't do it on purpose, but like I kind of like when I stuck with the Anthony on Facebook, and that's kind of what people gravitate to before like that we really get to know each other, and it switch like they'll be out and they're like Anthony, and they're like everyone's like, "What's up, Tony?" And they'll be like, "Well, what do you like?" And I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah. So I go by Everett. A lot of people call me Everett, and I like it. It's just something different. I was like Everett Lee show, ELS, so you can shorten it up. And early graphics that I started messing around with, I messed around making it look like the old ECW logo and stuff. There it is.
That.
Yeah. So what I did was I came up with like a graffiti. I always like graffiti art. I always love that, just spray paint and stuff like that. So I based off like, my logo of like a tagging on the side of a wall. So early stuff I have that's pretty much based off of that there. So first episode I had Hilton Ariel Ruiz. He's a independent filmmaker. I decided to stick with talking to independent filmmakers and stuff because that's pretty much what brought me to the game. So that I don't want to abandon that because a lot of people love independent films. They love them more than the big blockbusters, which a lot of them,
especially horror, like independent horror movies do very, very well. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And they get cult followings.
Yeah. Yeah. Some were great. And then someone was like, why the hell did you produce that stuff? Like Ripper Blackheart, of Future Great Wrestling. He mentioned on a podcast one time when we were talking to Thomas Ryan, he said a lot of those stuff they put on Amazon, it's like, who the hell released this shit? It's like,
I may be the voice of a movie that's on Amazon. There's a scene where they turn a radio on and it's me as a DJ. I'm not in I'm in the movie, but it's just my voice. Yeah. But so when you started interviewing, who did you I'm not trying to say, when I say try to emulate, I'm not saying you took their style, but who are some people you listen to as interviewers, be like, I kind of like what they do, or how did you find your style? What like, how did you come about developing yourself as someone who's doing interviews?
I looked at it. I looked at and listened and watched a lot of people. I watched especially Steve Austin, Chris Jericho. I listened to how he conducted his interviews. Stone Cold, Steve Austin. That was one there right there. And then Mancal Muller. You ever heard of him from Chicago? Mancal. He was the Howard Stern. I don't know if I should say that, of Chicago. Damian Saint would know who he is, but I'd listen to people like that. And I've always been a big fan when I was 16 of Conan O'Brien. I loved Late Night with Conan O'Brien, and it still pisses me off how NBC shafted him for not having the Tonight Show. But hey, he's doing great, man, with TBS, right? So,
yeah.
But those are some of the ones, because when I was 16, I'd stay up on Friday night, watch, Tonight Show or watch Letterman, depending on who was on. And then I'd always flip it over to watch Late Night with Conan O'Brien, because I loved how he interacted with the guest, the comedy style that he did, and how he conducted stuff. But as I went on with interviewing people, it just like, I would go back and watch an interview of myself, of my podcast. My wife would tease me. She said, "You just like listening to yourself." It's like,
of course, that's why we started doing any of this. We got to scratch somehow. Like, you got to scratch that itch,
Yeah. So one of the things I did was I would go back and listen to how I would conduct an interview with someone. And I would go back and use that as notes. I took the Macho Man Randy Savage formula, because I don't know if you heard about the stories of him, how he used to cut promos. It would take him forever to do a promo. JJ McGuire, he just passed away just recently. He collaborated with Jimmy Hart on a lot of the WWF, WCW theme music that I got to know really well. And he was telling me some stories, and he told me a story one time about he got to sit in and watch Macho Man do those promos, and people did not want to get behind Savage. He would take forever because he wanted to be just right. I mean, even the story I know you heard with like him with doing, going over the match with Ricky Steamboat, that match to WrestleMania 3, he wanted to be just right. So I'm my, worst critic, because I'll go back through and listen and see how I conducted myself and what I asked and stuff. And that way you keep improving and bettering yourself at doing interviews. But it's been crazy with the ups and downs of the podcast since 2016. I mean, I've got to talk to a lot of good people, which is amazing.
That's fun.
It is. I got to talk to in independent film, director. Like, I even had Jack Thomas Smith. I had him come back on the 200 episode, because I never really had him. I had him on Everett's Hangout, but I never had him on the Everett Lee show. So I made sure that on the 200 episode, I get him on at least once, and give him thanks for, inspired me to make it that far. But talking with Thomas Ryan, meeting Todd Starrett, I think he holds like the record of the most appearances on the Everett Lee show. He does a show on Podcasting Network with Scott Colbert called The Imaginarium, and those guys just broke their, I think it was like 400 or 200 episode. I think actually, 200. I'm going a little bit too far there with them.
Awesome.
But yeah, getting to talk with them, getting to talk with like JJ McGuire, getting to talk with who else? Sunny, the California girl, Patricia Summerlin. She was one of the original Glow Girls.
Sunny as in Tammy Stitch?
No. You're familiar with Glow, the original Glow, not the
Oh
Netflix. Yeah. She was Sunny, the California Girl.
Oh yeah.
I got,
Okay. I now I'm putting it together. I'm sorry. Long day.
that's okay. So I got talk with her. I got to talk with a few actors, independent actors from in the early episodes of Everett Lee show, and then recently I finally got to talk to the actor from Squid Game, which landed on my lap out of nowhere, man.
The main guy?
No, I got to talk with why am I forgetting his name? He's gonna kill me. But Jeffrey Giuliani. I got to talk with him. He was number 4. He was the guy that was like, "Can you impress me?" And you saw Squid Game, right?
Yeah, I've seen up to the tug of war one, and then
Okay.
Yeah,
you gotta
I
watch.
kind of know what happens. Someone spoiled it for me, and then I was like, I'll come back to it later.
So I got to talk with him, and he was just off the wall, man. He's just like larger than life, and that was a great interview. But I get to talk to a lot of independent wrestlers, which is great. I mean, I got to talk with Shauna Reed. I got to talk to her a couple times. Billy Stark. That was a good one. That episode is still the second most downloaded episode of the Everett Lee show on iTunes. Still to this date. Right behind Jeremiah Kemp, an independent film director who just came out with a movie called Slapface. So it was cool getting to talk with him. I had him on about 3 times, but then getting to talk to Shauna Reed, Billy Stark, getting to talk with man, there's so many that I've talked to. I can't.
You said you're over 200 episodes, right?
Yeah, I'm about 250 episodes in. There's just there's so many episodes. Sometimes it's getting to the point now, Anthony, that they're bleeding into each other. And
you're preaching to the choir. This is only episode 124. But if I probably put together every podcast, like I have Banging Beers at 160, Interviews with Everyday People is at one something. Let's say 110. Truth Behind Illusions almost is closing in on 50. So I think total I'm close to like 400 podcasts. Yeah, it's recorded pieces of content. It's trust me, there's times where I'm kind of conversation like, did I have this on this show or the last show? Hope I'm not repeating myself.
It's just crazy because I was a guest co-host on Deathmatch Wrestle podcast, and
David the guest Everett Russell, baby.
Yeah, he's in the chat. I see him there.
He's hanging out, chatting along with us. Yeah,
he always stalks me. I just, love you, David. Love you. But I was on one of his co-hosting on one of his shows, and the guest we had on, I asked a question that I already asked when he was on my podcast, and he brought it up. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Because I pretty much, I was like, he's like, oh, it's cool. But it's just like, they're starting to bleed into each other and stuff. And there for a while during the pandemic in 2020, I got furloughed there for a while. I wasn't doing, he's crazy. Shout out, David. But during the pandemic, I got furloughed for like 73 days in April. It's been about a year or a couple years since I got furloughed. During that time, it was only 73 days. I went back to work July 1st. But during that time, I got into talking with Robin Nelson a lot more and talking about FGW, which, Future Great Wrestling from Hamilton, Ohio. And it's Cody Hawk. It's the promotion that he runs there. And there's a lot of great talent that comes out of FGW, man. There's so much great talent there that it's there at that promotion. But I was doing like a lot of FGW episodes, and I even got to talk to Cody Hawk, which I think was just great. And even after the show we did, I got to talk to him more. Just, he's a great guy to talk to, man. You ever get a chance to talk to Cody Hawk, yeah. I mean, look at who he's trained. John Moxley, Eli Drake, to name a couple right there.
Yeah. Now, how do you work with a company from Ohio and you're resident of Florida? So are you watching their content via the internet and then kind of working through them that way?
Well, yeah, I watch. They got a YouTube channel. Every Wednesday at 7:00, they put out FGW. They put out episodes there, and I pretty much tune in and watch that there. And Robin Nelson works with FGW, and I hooked up with a lot of the talent there, like Ripper Blackheart. He's the manager at FGW. He's great. Just talking with him, and he pretty much helps me out, with getting a lot of talent on and stuff. And a lot of them's come on the podcast and they've been great, man. Just hearing their stories, how they got into wrestling, which I can relate to, as a fan of, being, a fan of wrestling.
Who's the first person you met at a show where you kind of got starstruck?
I honestly, I don't get starstruck. I don't like out here. I don't, but inside it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the same way. Like here I'm Van Dam. They're like, yo, you took that well. I'm like, yeah, I'm freaking the fuck out inside. I would say for me first time meeting Jimmy Hart was pretty crazy.
Yes.
Second time meeting Jimmy Hart was even more crazy. Earl Hebner was dope. Who I'm trying Killer Cross was really cool. Mike and Maria were really cool. Kurt Angle was dope. Bob Backlund, that was pretty crazy. I was a bit. I know a lot of people didn't like him, but when I liked Enzo, and then I was at a show at the commentary table, and Enzo walks. Now I never told Enzo this. He has no idea. But for the longest time when Enzo was getting big, I was growing my hair long, and I used to do the Enzo top knot. I walk around like, how you doing? How you doing? Like doing the whole thing. And I'm at a house show and I'm in commentary. He walks up to a 3-man booth and he gets the microphone and he gets nose to nose and he's like, hey partner, I wanted to ask you a question. And he turns around, looks at the crowd, and everyone starts doing and then he goes, how you doing? And I just went, that just happened. I just pumped my fist. It's the only thing I could think of doing. And he walked away and I was like, Paul, you have no idea how crazy that was for me. That just happened to get for Enzo to be nose to nose with me and do the "How you doing?" I marked out a little bit in my head. I was like Bugs Bunny on the moon.
Oh, nice. You mentioned Jimmy Hart. I met Jimmy Hart. I got to hang out with Jimmy Hart. He had a place here in Daytona Beach, the Jimmy Hart Hall of Fame Bar and Grill.
Nice.
And yeah, it was just like 10 minutes from my house, just right over on the beach side, man. And I used to go over there on the weekends when my schedule worked out where I could go over there on the weekends and sometimes on a Tuesday night. Remember when SmackDown used to be on Tuesday nights?
Yes.
I was able to go over there sometimes if I didn't have to work Tuesday nights, and he had have it on there, and then he'd have the pay-per-views on there. So pay-per-view night, man, that place, people come in there. And my good friend Tommy, he who I was talking about, who basically hung up his boots this past last year from the ring. We used to go over there and we used to sit there with Jimmy. Jimmy would be like, hey, come on in, baby. And when my wife was pregnant,
he literally talks like that. That's not even a joke. That's the first thing he said. Hey, baby, how you doing? I was like, please tell, like, because he came behind me and I think he like patted me on like the leg or the butt or something. And he's like, how you doing, baby? And I just like looked at my buddy. I'm like, I was like, please tell me that is Jimmy. Like, that's not Jimmy. And I turned and I'm like, hey, how you doing? And he talked to me like he knew who I was for 50 years. And we just had this, because when he comes into a place, just for people who don't know, Jimmy treats everyone. It's a wrestling thing. You treat everyone as if they are Ric Flair. Like everyone is on the same level. You treat everyone with the same respect, even if you have no idea who they are. You walk around, you shake everyone's hand. That's an old school thing. It's something that still holds true to this day. And he did the same exact thing. He walked up. He treated me as if I was that I mean, it wasn't like I'm a WWE Hall of Famer. I wrote Shawn Michaels music. Go screw yourself, long haired hippie. He walked up and he like talked to me like we were best friends. And then I seen him again at another show, and the same exact thing. Now, he probably has no idea that I was from that show to this show. He meets thousands of people, but like we sat and watched playoff football together, and we're just talking football. Like I was like blown away. Like like when I was a kid watching him manage Hulk Hogan, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm gonna watch the Bengals get into the playoffs with Jimmy Hart next to me on a treadmill. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's unbelievable. Like the world of professional wrestling.
It is. And my wife, when what's up, Mike?
Well, Mike, if you want to go to a show this Saturday, shameless plug real quick here. This Saturday is going to be PPW in Broadheadsville, Pennsylvania. Yes, and I think tickets are still on sale. Some of the front rows are all taken out because it's really, really popular. But Jay Lethal will be there. Dante Martin will be there. Scarlett Bordeaux will be there. Let me pull it up. But yeah, and PPW is a great place to see a show. You get to meet a lot of cool people. Meet and greet starts at let's see what we have here. Sorry. Meet and greet is Jesus Christ. I don't have it on the flyer. Oh, Bell Time 7 meet and greet is at 4:30. But yeah, so Dante Martin, Jay Lethal, Lance Archer, Scarlett Bordeaux. Sorry, can't talk. VSK, Mike Orlando, Jordan Oliver, Alpha Jr., and a lot of other cool names. So definitely come on out if you haven't been to a local show. That's the perfect one to dip your toes into. And I'll be there doing commentary, so you can come hang out. All right, sorry, bud. Go ahead.
Yeah, but Jimmy, when my wife ended up in it was actually right around the 2016. It was towards August or September, or probably back before that. My wife was like, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, what? Out of nowhere, she's pregnant. So I mean, I was shocked. I was like, no way. And so we took extra precautions this time around, and we didn't want to know what the sex was or anything till we got past the 21, 23 mark. We waited till 24, 25 weeks. So we had a gender reveal party. I came up with the idea. We went to a bakery, local bakery, made a cake, and we got the results of if it was a boy or girl. And I gave it to the lady, and I said, pink on the inside if it's a girl, blue on the inside if it's a boy. Okay. So had the cake. We cut that cake open. As soon as we cut it open, it was pink. It was like girl. I was like, oh shit, I'm in trouble now.
Yeah.
So
Did you ever see the wrestling gender reveal parties? So they get two wrestlers to come in, and they tell, I guess somebody gives an envelope to somebody to say, hey, this is the gender. So one person wears pink and one person wears blue, and whoever wins the match, that's your baby. So they literally put a match on at your party in a ring, and two people wrestle. And if the blue corner wins, it's your boy. If the pink wins, it's a girl. So that's something I've been seeing on the internet, which I think is awesome as a wrestling fan, that instead of burning down an entire rainforest, you can just, or California, you can just hire two wrestlers, and they'll wrestle in your backyard, and it'll be really fun. And everyone can get drunk and heckle. It sounds fantastic.
Oh man, that's amazing. That is amazing. But yeah, I was shocked, having a girl and stuff. And when my wife was pregnant, and we'd go over there to, watch wrestling and stuff, he was cool. He was like, hey baby, he's like, here, come on, sit down. He's like, how you, and he was all really, really nice to my wife. Like, are you okay and stuff and everything. And even after my daughter was born, I'd go in there and he'd be like, hey baby, how you doing? And he's like, how's that little girl of yours? And I show him pictures, and he's like, wow. And it was great just getting to pick his mind and just listen to him talk about matches and stuff and everything. And I finally got to ask him a couple of things that I always want to know about. And he told me, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. But during that time, Robin Nelson hit me up and said, hey, you need to get JJ McGuire on your show. And I was like, JJ McGuire? He's like, yeah. And right after I hit 100 episodes, I just decided to just do straight interviews. That's it. just straight interviews, and maybe have a guest come on and talk about something here and there. And during the episode 103, I had JJ McGuire come on, and I talked with him, developed a really good relationship, and got to know him. And Podcast City Network in 2018, I started that with Chris Carnage. We started Podcast City Network because I was trying to get on networks. I was trying to do stuff, and I finally got tired of having the door just slammed on me. No, you don't have. We're looking for shows that have numbers here. You're here, and I was just like getting kicked to the curb. I got tired of it because pretty much a lot of in my life, it's like I've been heckled or been poked fun at or embarrassed, and even to this day it still happens. I mean, I was telling you what was happening with this last job I just left, and I was like, I was telling Chris, I said, you know what, let's start our own network. Let's give shows out there that are good or even better than these other shows that have all these numbers. Let's give them a chance. Let's push them, let's promote them. And he was like, all right, let's do it. So 2018, we formed Podcast City Network. We had a handful of shows, and we've, shows have come and gone, but it's funny because if 2 shows leave, we get 3 that replace 2. So I mean, that's a bonus there. And we have a lot of shows that just, mutually part on their own terms. And a lot of them just are stuck with us. I mean, we have a wide variety of great content, from like talk about independent wrestling to pop culture to horror to sports, and just a lot of great content on there. And we decided to do our 1-year anniversary in 2019, and JJ was with a promotion up in Kentucky, which I'm not going to mention the name, but that's a whole different story. So he left to come down here and spent a week with me and go see Jimmy, because I mean, they were like brothers. They were in the Gentrys together before Jimmy got into wrestling, and he followed, they both got into wrestling and created some of the greatest like music themes. I mean, he like one night we were sitting there we stayed up late talking, and I said, how much do you know about your music on the internet? And he's like, what do you mean? I said, YouTube. He said, never really looked. I said, let's come over here and take a look. So we're sitting here, Anthony, and we're going through, and he's like, he named, like Bret Hart. Go Bret Hart. And he's like checked, and he's like, okay, they gave me credit for this. And he was making sure they didn't give Jim Johnson, credit, because a lot of people, when they think of it's Jim Johnson, a lot of people forget Jimmy Hart and JJ McGuire, the guys who created a lot of the themes. And
Jimmy Hart created my favorite intro music, Sexy Boy. Now,
no, I didn't see the new shorts you got there.
I'm wearing my Chalkline Shawn Michaels. I had a pair of white ones, and I was like, I need black, because if I want to wear them out, I have to be white's a little too I get dirty real quick. But yeah, I got the black SummerSlam. I think these are Survivor Series. I want the white WrestleMania ones where he won the title with, but they're hard to find.
Yeah. It was crazy. We pulled up Shawn Michaels Sexy Boy, and JJ said it, and it's the most downloaded, most played wrestling theme song ever. It is. And he was telling me about the 2 versions of it, because they had the one with Sherry, and then they switched it over to, having just Shawn. And I'm sitting here listening to Sexy Boy, and I look over, and there's the guy next to me who played it. I gotta pinch myself, man. It's like, wow. And
fun fact, that is on Touchtones jukeboxes. So if you ever get real drunk at a bar that has a Touchtones, if you type in Sexy Boy, it's about 9 minutes long, and everyone in the bar loves it after about minute 3. So pro tip for people out there.
Nice. So I was sitting there like listening to theme songs this guy's wrote. and played on guitar on and did all the instruments for, which was great. And he told me how, he did Demolition's theme and how they, Jimmy Hart told him to leave the one bridge off. And he's like, why? He's like, so, what's his name? Rick Dillinger comes in and, so he fills in that part and they can share a writing credit with. So I was like, oh, that was pretty smart there, how they did that.
Yeah.
And during that time, it was January of 2019, the Royal Rumble happened. It was about to happen. So JJ was down just in time for that. So we went over to Jimmy's. And like you said, Jimmy's good with faces, but he forgets names. Yeah. So we went over there and my friend Tommy was there and JJ met Tommy. And as soon as Jimmy just came in from an appearance, we were waiting there for him. Jimmy came in and it was like watching two brothers interact. It was great. And then after the Royal Rumble, he was like, Jimmy walked up. He's like, all right, baby. Hey, thanks for coming. He walks off and I'm like, you don't know I'm JJ's chauffeur tonight. He's staying with me. And so JJ was telling him, he's like, yeah, I'm staying with Denver. And he was like, Denver. He's like, oh yeah, baby. Yeah, I know. He was like, hey, let's go up here to Waffle House, get something to eat, baby. It's like, all right. So we followed Jimmy Hart. Best moment of my life. I will always cherish this, Anthony. 12:30 in the morning on Daytona Beach shores, sitting in a Waffle House in between Jimmy Hart and JJ McGuire, listening to him talk about the Gentrys and wrestling.
Yeah.
Best moment of my life, man. I'll never forget that. Never, man.
That's fantastic. That's goals right there.
It is. And it's just being a fan of like wrestling, just independent wrestling is just great. I love independent wrestling. I quit watching WWE. I fell out of the product. I quit watching it. A while back ago, I had someone on, had a guest on, and they were talking about WWE. It's like, who holds this? Who? And I'm like, and they're going on the rant about WWE and stuff. And finally, when they asked, it's like, so are they the longest champions? Do you know? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't watch WWE. Are they? And and it was like, all right, let's move on to something else now because we can't go in that area because Everett don't watch it.
Yeah, I'm at the point now where there's so much wrestling on. We're WWE, NXT, AEW, ROH now coming back, Impact. I mean, there's networks on there like IwTV where you can watch all this independent wrestling television for $9. Like, there's just so much. New Japan America. There's just so much wrestling. Why waste your time watching something you don't like? That's just my take. So if you're not enjoying it, there's no reason to like. So I get credits. Like some heat sometimes. He's like, well, how are you gonna not watch WWE and do a wrestling podcast? I'm like, because I don't do weekly reviews. I talk about old school stuff. I talk about this. I talk about that. I interview people. Like, I don't need to watch the current product of something to be considered a wrestling fan. Just because I don't watch WWE doesn't mean it's not the end all be all of professional wrestling. I don't know. I'm the same way. I prefer the indies. Like, I love the indie shows. I love meeting independent stars. AEW to me, and this is not a knock, and I know that sometimes I get knocked for this, but AEW to me feels like an indie show with a budget. I don't know. It just it's fun to watch. Like, that you could tell the people out there having a genuine good time working with each other and writing those stories and making those storylines. And it's just, it's entertaining to me. I don't know. I love it. And I love seeing the people from the independent scene getting opportunities on Dark and Elevation and all these cool shows. It's a blast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it because it brings me back to a time when I really enjoyed watching wrestling with my dad. My father passed away in 2012, prostate cancer. He was 81. And I remember back during the late 90s and early 2000s into the ruthless aggression after WWE bought WCW, I watched that stuff with my dad. And my dad, like even growing up, me and my brother, we used to tease our dad because he was a Dusty Rhodes fan. He loved the American Dream, and he hated Ric Flair. He would cuss and yell at the TV. We would, me and my brother, we'd heckle him and be like, oh no, Dad's getting mad. It's like Ric Flair's on TV, and I swore. We went through a lot of TVs one year because he'd throw them out the door. Ric Flair be on the TV, he'd be a little bit lit, and watching wrestling, and then that TV go out the front door. So neighbors see the TV out the front yard and be like, "Oh, Ric Flair must have been on TV again." So he like Midnight Express. He couldn't stand Cornette. My dad, I remember I was laughing so hard. My dad said he wished someone to take that racket and shove it up his ass. He would be so happy because
the man was doing his job.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
And I got to meet him, which was great. I got to meet Cornette, and it was great getting to meet him, talk with him. And what really kicked it off was I was wearing the Jimmy Hart Hall of Fame Bar and Grill shirt, and that was the first thing he seen. He was like, "Hey!" And he's like, we had a conversation about Jimmy. He told me some stories. He shared some stories, and he told me to mention something to Jimmy. And I went back and told Jimmy, and Jimmy laughed, and he said, "Mention this to Cornette." Or actually, no, he said, when I told Jimmy I was going to go see Cornette, he said, "Mention this to him." And then when I went and seen Cornette, I was talking with him. I said, "Oh yeah, Jimmy wanted to mention this to you." And he died laughing. He said, "Well, tell Jimmy this." I was like, "Okay." So went back the following week, seen Jimmy. And he was like, "Hey, baby, you see Cornette? You see Corny?" I said, "Yeah, I did." I said, "He wanted me to tell you something." I told him. He died laughing, man. I never seen him laugh so hard. And, just him laughing at the response and stuff. And then he added more to the story. It was great being back and forth mediator for that, which was cool. But
now, growing up, is Jimmy the same at his restaurant as his independent show? So if another thing too, if you're ever at an independent show early, or if you're at the privilege to be there before the crowd gets there, Jimmy Hart is known to be walking in and help set up chairs or taking chairs down. He is, that dude still works. He feels, like I said, treating everybody as the same. I've seen Jimmy Hart set chairs up at a place, walk in and be like, "Where do you need these chairs?" And he'll help put them up. And I'm like, "My dude, you've earned you're like, you've got it. Go sit and relax somewhere."
Yeah.
But yeah, he's fantastic.
He is. And independent shows, I mentioned this a little bit before we went live tonight with you. One thing about podcasting that's helped out, that's opened the door for me, was I got to work for independent wrestling promotions. One didn't turn out so well, my first taste of it, and I was like, "Nah, this ain't it."
Just like podcasts, wrestling companies come and go.
Yeah. This one came and went in the night. It was here and it was gone. It was tax season. But the next promotion that approached me was Knockout Wrestling, based out of here in Florida. Nicholas Vick approached me about doing commentary. So I was like, "Okay, cool." So I gave commentary a stab. So I didn't really know where to begin with commentary. I was like, "Okay, I've heard it a million times, seen it a million times." It's like, okay, now it's like you're really going to get into it. So who am I going to be and sound like? What inspiration am I going to draw from? That was the fun part, man. So I remember Saturday mornings, WWF Superstars, Roddy Piper. I loved his style of commentary. And of course, my two favorite is screaming and yeah, he had some good one-liners, man. Had some good one-liners, especially when McMahon was in between him and Savage. He
has one of the greatest one-liners of all time for a debut.
Yeah,
do you remember his one-liner for the Undertaker?
Yeah, look at that.
Look at the ham hocks on him, or something like that. Look at that big ham hock.
Yeah, I love that. My two favorite commentary was Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan. I loved it.
T-shirt with both of them on it.
My favorite primetime wrestling episode is where Bobby pulled Gorilla out in the woods looking for Andre's training camp. They kept walking in circles, and of course, Gorilla, for heaven's sakes, Brain. He's like, we already been through here. It's like, no, we haven't. Monsoon, it's just right over here. There's a banana you were eating earlier. No, that's Andre's. It's over the way. He's close. just some good stuff like that. And
so did you do color or play by play?
I did color. I had George Black. He did. Well, actually, I did the first. I did about 8 episodes with Knockout Wrestling, doing commentary for their weekly show, Knockout TV. The first 4 episodes I did with George Black. I kind of did play-by-play and color at the time, but I was also I wanted to be the heel commentary. So one of my favorite episodes I did, I think it was episode 4, where Venom, the heavyweight champion, was in the match, and he wins the match. And after the match, he's sitting there looking at the camera, and I forgot who he was wrestling, but they came up and started beating him down. He got double teamed, and George Black says, "Oh man, look what they're doing to Venom." I said, I know, George. I was like, he slipped. They're trying to help him up. They're stomping him and stuff, and he's like, they're jumping him. I said, no, they're not. They're trying to help him up. He slipped and fell. He knocked himself out in the turnbuckle, and then he's like, they're stomping his leg. They're trying to break his leg. I said, well, it was an outside event. I said, George, it's outside. They're trying to stomp out bugs on his leg, just playing off like that. And I was just my family. I had some family listen to it. My brother, my older brother, who's a wrestling fan, he calls me up. He's like, dude, I'm dying laughing with your commentary. Where the hell did you pull that out of? It's just like, I was like, it just started clicking natural. And I did 4 episodes with him, and then I had Chris Carnage. I had my best friend come on, and he did the play-by-play, and I'd come in there with some stuff. Like there's one worker named Billy McLeod, King of Extreme, and he mentioned one of the events. He's walking out in the ring. He's like, Billy McLeod. He's King of Extreme. He's here to whatever it was. And I said, yeah. I said, Chris, he's so extreme that he rode a BMX bike here to the event. Just little tidbits like that and stuff, which is great. And I'm cheering for the heel, and I'm like, these people need to show some respect, just being the Bobby the Brain stuff. And then he would get mad at me, the chemistry worked off great because we've known each other for a while, and I had a good time with that. And then I left there, and there for a while I got with Thumper Chapman, who I did comment the 4 episodes of Knockout with. He's been a promoter in Florida for like 25 plus years. So he was talking about bringing back Championship Family Wrestling Entertainment, CFWE. He wanted a production guy. So I got with him, and I knew nothing about production, setting up cameras, editing, putting out the videos. I knew nothing. I was just thrown into this. So it's like, okay, where do I start? So I looked at like the intros, the video editing, the graphic design and stuff that I've been doing for podcast and my podcast. So I said to myself, I guess I'll start there. So I just started throwing some stuff together, sending it to him. He started liking it. And from January of last year to September, we had 9 events, and I pretty much showed up once a month, recorded the events, took the footage back home here, and spent a whole week editing, crunching, trying to get content out there, man. And it was fun. I got to meet a lot of people. I love shooting promos before the show with people. Some were great, one takes. I developed some pretty good friendships with a lot of talent. I got to see one person really grow as a worker, Christian Mills. That kid started getting book all over the place with the stuff we were putting out there with CFWE. People were taking a look at that. He started getting bookings, and it helped his career. And a lot of the talent there was just amazing. Just working with, getting to know Thump Dupree. He's a former ROH Ring of Honor talent. I don't know if you've heard of Thump Dupree. He's been in the ring with.
Familiar, yeah.
He's been in the ring with Samoa Joe, AJ Styles. He told me a story about when he wrestled a young Adam Cole and lit him up in the turnbuckle. Baby. Yeah. Just I developed a really good relationship with him and being really good friends with him. And we call each other still, to see, what's up and just talk wrestling, talk about what's going on in our lives and stuff. And I really impressed him that first show because during the show, the monitor went out, the camera. So I was real quick getting it back on the monitor, and he made a comment. He said, "Man," he said, "Everett got that stuff up. He crashed and it was right back up running, man. Didn't skip a beat." He's like, "Good job." So I was like, great first impression there. He pretty much trusted me because I knew what the hell I was doing, but that was pretty wild. It's led me into trying to do my own graphic design thing, making posters, flyers, and trying to get back and doing video editing again for like wrestling promotions, because I had so much fun doing that. Just sitting there, just piecing together matches and just like putting something out there that people can.
How many cams did your show run?
Sometimes we'd run 3. And one time I think we ran 4. What normally would happen was we'd have a freelance photographer, camera guy come in named Carlos, and one of the shows, thank God he showed up, because he showed up and he's like, "Here, I'm here to work." I'm like, "All right, cool." And I had like an earpiece on with a walkie. I directed the Roam Cam guy. We took a webcam, we stuck it up one spot for the hard cam, and pretty much the boys saw the hard cam footage. The Roam Cam, he got on what the camera guy that I had got on one side and he got on the other, and they pretty much shot parallel to each other. And then when something happened outside the ring, they were right there. They did it good. We had a camera, overhead camera. However, one of the boys wearing the zebra stripes came running, trying to run to the back where I had it blocked off by the computer. So he was trying, I don't know what his deal was. I don't what his problem was, but he tried to get over by the computer and he jarred the door into the computer. I turned around, I lit his ass up, and he didn't talk to me the rest of the night. He screwed up. During intermission, I had to fix that third camera because when I was flipping back to it, it was just he fucked it up. I was pissed, man.
I've already had situations where like you have your hard cam set up, or you have your equipment set up, and all of a sudden people want to leave the ring and be a hardcore match, and your hard cam table is going to be the spot. And I go, fucking move it along. That's a $2,000 camera. Get the fuck out of here.
The promoter, he told everyone, when we had meetings before the show, the promoter said, Thumper said, "Don't fuck up the equipment." He's like, "That's my equipment." And it was. Some people thought it was my equipment. They're like, hey, you want to go do this wrestling show? I'm like, "Yeah, it's going to cost you." They're like, "Well, what do you mean?" It's like, "You could bring your equipment." I said, "That's not my equipment." And he's like,
and even if it was your equipment, it's still going to cost you.
yeah, it still is. He let me take it home. I take the stuff home with me up until that last show. I gave it all back to him. I said, "Here you go," because my wife was like,
"Not like independent wrestlers want independent wrestling stuff. One of the things for free, right?"
Yeah,
never heard that before. But we are getting close here to the end. I just want to do a quick ad read. So if you have anything in closing you want to get out there before last stories or anything you want to plug or talk about. But I want to say the Tree of Life is the largest metaphysical store in our area, offering a wide range of holistic, new age, and spiritual items and supplies, unique gifts, raw and tumbled crystals, essential oils, teas, herbs, and books, tarot card and oracle cards, journals, and so much more. They offer services like Reiki, crystal healing, craniosacral, ionic foot detox. I'm going to butcher these as a brand new ad read, so just bear with me. Ear candling, hypnotherapy, past life regressions. They also do book readings with an intuitive tarot reader, have your tea leaves read, or palm readings. They host weekly and monthly events, groups, and classes. There's something for everybody. Or would you like to host a private theme party for you and your friends, a paint and sip, craft nights, or birthday girls' night out, or some bridal showers? If you come up with an idea for a party, they will do their best to provide a magical night. Located in the mystical valley of Ringtown, Schuylkill County, check us out on the web at treeoflifeshop.com. That's TreeofLifeshop.com, or on Facebook or Instagram at Tree of Life Shop. Use the code IwEP. Oh, so there's a little echo there. Use the code IwEP on the website or mention IwEP at your checkout when you're there personally to get 30% off all products. Discount one per customer. For more info, call 570-741-3547. All righty, what's up? We're back.
Nice.
Yeah.
I always like coming up with ads, doing the voiceover and stuff for like a podcast and creating intros for other podcasts.
So I'm still learning more about the metaphysical and the spiritual thing. I'm still an open-minded skeptic, so some of the stuff I still don't know exactly what it means or how to pronounce it, so I butcher it sometimes, but I'll eventually get there. Yeah,
that's why you got to do a run through beforehand. I'm just kidding.
I just wing it.
You did great.
It's all about my reps. Yeah.
Wing it. Yeah. There's been times where on a podcast I'd wing it because I was doing notes and questions. And
I can't do them.
You can. I can do them if a guest asked. I can do them. I can just like boom. It's like off the top of my head because after doing it for so long, you pretty much. I use wrestling, like a lot of stuff with wrestling into my podcast, like promos. Okay. 5 points, here, make sure you hit these 5 points when you go to do the promo. Okay. When I do an interview, 5 points, it's like, if I at least get 3 out of the 5 talked about, I'm cool. If I get 5 out of 5, I'm on fire. But I pretty much use that philosophy. You know what I'm talking about there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in the same wrestling term. I call it on the fly. Yeah. We'll call it in the ring. Like, how are we going to do this match? I'll call it in the ring. See, I can't Macho Man a podcast. I can't have I don't have a list of questions. I don't research my guests before I come on because I want to learn about you the same time my audience does, and that's just always kind of been my style. But I'm very good at building off response and building off questions. You're an easy guest, obviously, because you've been podcasting for 8 years, so you definitely know your direction and how you want to talk. And sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes I have to pull a conversation out of somebody. So it's just kind of building off who's in front of you. But I personally love it.
Yeah, I love it too, man. I mean, I love talking with people, and I just love what the road and everything that I've been on with doing this for 8 years. And I mean, like I mentioned before, there's been a lot of ups and downs, and I mean, there's been times where I just wanted to just hang it up. Seriously, it's like when I get to this certain number, I just want to hang it up. But then
I've been there before, yeah.
After like a few weeks ago, I was in that spot. I was pretty much thinking of like hanging it up after 250 or 300. I was thinking like right there. But I was talking to David Barnabas Spector, who's a manager up in FGW there, and he got his start in wrestling from excuse me, JJ McGuire. JJ McGuire got his start with the promotion he was at in Kentucky, gave him his start and helped him because that led him to going to FGW and being one of the great heel managers there in that promotion. And I was talking with him, talking about, we called each other up and we talked for a couple hours one night, talking about stories about JJ. And he commended me. He said, man, 250 or almost 250 episodes, man, keep keep it going. That's great. No one's, does that. No one really does. And I was just like, it motivates me just to keep pushing because, again, like you said, you want numbers to be at a certain place, but it's not. You promote and you try everything. I've tried numerous times to sell Everett Lee show merchandise shirts. Yeah. And it's like I'll put that out there and I'll get like some likes here and there, and then I'll put out there. It's like I even try to give stuff away for free. No one wants it. I'm like, wow. As like if Everett Lee's name's on
morale boost, right?
Yeah.
You're like, we're doing a giveaway, and everyone's like, I don't care. You're like, all right, cool. We're not gonna do giveaways. I don't need that for my conscience. I don't need that for my morale. Yeah, I definitely hear you. It's tough. Building that community and building that audience is hard, and we live in a world where most people are like, man, I can't stand that we make rich, stupid people famous, and I can't stand that we don't support small business, and I can't stand that people idolize celebrities and they're bad influences on your kids. But let a celebrity make a podcast or a TV show and everyone's quick to watch it, or let another celebrity slap another celebrity in the face and it's all they ever talk about. But they have friends and family who are artists and create great art, whether it be music or professional wrestling or podcasts or YouTube channels or anything like that. And people are like, I'm not supporting that. Who are you? You're not famous. I don't care. And then they don't support it. So it's very, very hard. And it's why I'm very grateful to people who do support and comment and like and interact, because it really does help that motivation to keep doing it, because it's you have to, I mean, I'm not sure about you, but I know I've sacrificed time away from friends and family and missing events because I've scheduled an interview and I want to stay on true to my commitments and staying consistent. Like if you say I'm going to be live every single Monday or I'm going to be live every single Tuesday, you better be live every Tuesday, because if that one day you don't miss a show, at least for me, I freak out. Like, what if that was a Tuesday I missed? That something could have happened. Or your audience thinks, man, you're not here this Tuesday. Why should I tune in next Tuesday? So it's tough to keep that consistency and keep hitting that record button, and it's very difficult.
It is, and it's like Facebook Live when that first came out in 2016. I figured out ways, with like using a computer, because everyone was like all into that, like, hey, on the phone, hey, I'm like, what if you could do this on a computer? So I found a way how to do it on a computer, and I hooked up a couple of webcams, and I had fun during the early days, because a lot of people tune in and stuff, and then they just dropped off.
To get them over. It's tough to get them to like YouTube or anything outside of Facebook, because if they have to click a link and go somewhere else and like it, they're not doing it.
Yeah. It's just a short attention span. I blame TikTok for that.
We're actually pretty decent on TikTok.
People's been trying to get me to join TikTok forever. I said, no, thanks. I don't want no Chinese spyware on my phone. Sorry. But besides that,
you just have American spyware on your phone.
Yeah.
Someone's spying on you. Either way.
I know. I was just wondering how many times I looked and seen I've been on Pornhub today.
Yep, they know everything about you. They've created a profile. They're like, he likes pro wrestling and 2-girl porn. Yep, that's
Jenna Jameson.
Yeah.
I was laughing at the fact that Hulu put out that show about. Yeah, I remember that. I was a senior in high school, dude, when that came out. Yeah. Dude, one guy got a hold of the tape and he's like, hey, guess what I got? I was like, what? Damn, a Tommy tape. We're like, no way. He's like, did you watch it? He's like, fuck yeah, I watched it. I was like, how was it? He's like, you like schlong? I'm like, what? You're like schlong? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, that's all you see is Tommy. Yeah. And it's like, you see Pam, he's like, yeah, but mostly Tommy. And it's like, oh, I love you, baby. Oh, I love you, baby. And I was like, really? So
Tommy.
Yeah. So I watched it, and I was like, this is just funny. This is a comedy, man, not a freaking porn thing, man. It's
I like when he honks the horn on the boat with his wiener. Classic scene, classic. Yeah. But so my last question I want to pose to you here quick. The network. So you have your own network, and how do people become members of your network? What does the network provide for people who do join? Tell us a little bit about that network.
Well, when you join a podcasting network, we want to help shows grow. If someone already has a show that they want to grow it bigger and get more out there, well, we can help a show do that. We can also help with like setting up like your mics, like streaming software. If people come in and are not too familiar with like they're doing they're doing an audio podcast and want to like try doing it video, have it live, and if someone's in that unfamiliar territory to them, we can help them out. That we can consult, we can help set up their equipment and guide them to make their podcast better, and little tips in here and stuff that we've used over the years that's helped us with our shows, the stuff that that's come a long way to help us. And we do have like a contract that people could sign up, and it's free, and they want to be part of the network. They'll have their show logo be on the front page with all the shows that's on the front page, your own page with your episodes, with if you whatever format you use, Podbeam, Google Play, iTunes, iHeart, whatever you use, we can have that on that page there where people come to it. And if you have any sponsors or anything you want that promoted on there, you're free to do that too. Promote your sponsors, promote whatever you want to do. And we pretty much just want to help you build and grow your show. And a lot of people, just come on and just have their shows have grown, like Deathmatch Wrestle Podcast, Robin Nelson with Wrestle Podcast. There's other shows that's already have numbers, but already like want to grow bigger, get out more range, which we help with, like Verbal Shenanigans. They have a really good fan base. That's a really good show with really great guests. We push shows like that. Movie Nights Podcast with Dylan. He independent filmmaker, shout out to him. And Quiver, can't wait, but it's just helping you grow your show on social media or wherever we can help you with and stuff. If you need intro, outro, if you need us to host a live podcast for you, we can do that too. Whatever we can do to help you grow, we're there for you.
Perfect. Yeah. A lot of people ask to join this network, and I'm like, listen, man, I don't even know what to do to help you. I'm going to be honest. I'm still learning it myself. And the only reason this network exists is just because I personally have, at the time, 6 shows. So it was easier to put everything I did on one network because it was kind of like the network of me, I guess you would say, or my branding. I have grown to other shows joining it, but it's more or less like people I personally know, because I give some things to people on my network that if I would have brought like a stranger in, I'm like giving them passwords to things that have my bank account information. So a lot of it is like trust. Like I give people like access to the StreamYard so they can use StreamYard so they don't have to pay the same price. And I do give it to them for free, or I may give them access to my Adobe so they can edit a video. But like, that's something I'm like, oh, well, some guy from Texas wants to join your podcast. I'm like, I can't give you that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know you. Like if my buddy burns me and goes on my thing and takes my credit card, like I know where you live, like I'll get my stuff back. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So it is tough. I love the idea of networks. Like Tornado Tag is featured on other networks that aren't mine, because people just ask like, hey, can we feature your podcast on our network, just to say like you're affiliated? And I'm like, sure, go ahead, throw it on there. That's fine with me. But yeah, I think it's a cool idea for networks to grow. The only thing that kind of annoys me with some networks, and I don't know if you guys run into this problem or not, but I've seen other like network pages on Facebook and stuff do it, where it just turns into, so I tried to make a Facebook group and I called it the Elite Podcasters of Professional Wrestling. And I invited all these different podcasters to come in. I said, all right, here's the objective. If we can get 1,000 people in this room, in this community, 1,000 podcasters, and you say, hey, here's a YouTube page, we can grow that to 1,000 subscribers if we support each other. And if we support that and like, hey, this person's live, go support them or share their link or do whatever you got to do on your page, That's fine. Now I understand you can't do everybody every single day because everyone puts content out, but you got to split it up. Like you help this guy for a week and then we'll help that. Like, but all it turns into is everyone dumps all their content to it and they do nothing to help everybody else out. And it pisses me off because it's so against how you can help each other grow. Like
Yeah.
every social media platform, if you hit 1,000 subscribers, you can it puts you in a different tier. Like you have 1,000 followers, that means we'll put you to have more people look at your platform because you're at a certain mark. YouTube, that's when you become monetized and it gets you out there more. Obviously, you need watch time too, but like there's ways you can help each other grow. But everyone just is like, so look at me, look at me, look at me, and I'm not going to help everyone else out. And then I see that, I'm like, I'm out of here. I don't need to be a part of this because I want to work with people who want to work with each other, not just here's my page. Like I have my tornado tag page, and for a long time, like I'm not trying to be mean to other podcasters, but don't just come in and dump all your stuff in my community page, because I want that to be a place where people can talk and communicate and talk pro wrestling. And here just happened today and people could put their opinions, but they can't do that when every 30 seconds 100 people are dumping like, here's my podcast, go look at it because you have 1,000 people in here. Like, no, fuck off. Like if you're here and you're engaging and you talk to the community and you build yourself in that community, then sure, then you can share here and there, but it's not a dumping ground. And I think that's what happens to a lot of podcaster pages and networks, where it just turns into that. And it's not a great way to grow, because that's why a lot of times we don't get taken seriously as podcasters, because you go look at like, oh, I'm gonna go check out this guy's page and it's just filled with 100 other people dumping their stuff every day. It's like, why would I dedicate myself to be in this page if that's all it is? So it's tough, man. Yeah,
it is. I quit joining groups because I've been getting like a lot of invites on groups. I cut myself off because there's so many to keep up with. I even left groups because someone put up, hey, rate, share, review for review. Yeah. So whoever put that post up, it's like, okay, so I'll go listen to the podcast. So this is where it gets bad. This gets bad. I'm putting this out there to warn anyone. So if you're on one of those group pages, someone said, hey, I'll give you a review for a review on my podcast. Okay. Soon as you get into that, you review theirs, okay, and you start looking at the comments, then people's going to start hitting you up. Hey, review mine. Hey, I'll do yours. Hey, do mine. So I got caught up in it. One day I spent almost 4 hours going back and forth because I didn't want to piss no one off. And I finally said, forget this. I left. Yeah. I say, no. If you ever see anything like that, stay the fuck away.
Yeah, run for the hills.
Don't even give it a like, because it'd be like The Walking Dead. It's like, and they come right at you.
I had a thing too where it's like everyone's like, hey, can I come in and be your guest? I'm like, yeah, man, no problem. Come on, be a guest. And then like they come on, I'm like, all right, so when are we setting up our interview on your platform? They're like, see, I don't do stuff like that. See you later, man. But great for the interview. Like, oh, or they come on. Like I had not too long ago, I had someone come on and it's like, cool, man, thanks. Can you give this a share? Like share out your episode? They're like, yeah, no problem. Never did it. And I was like, oh, so you just joined to do a podcast interview to get to our audience, but you don't want to repay it back or even share it. Like, I don't care if you don't want me as a guest, but at least share it. Like it sucks, man, because this podcast game is tough, and to find people that are willing to work with each other and be cool with each other is not fucking easy.
Yeah, it's not. I'll admit I've been bad at it myself, but I'm trying to work at it. But the problem I run into is there's so much shows and content, and you want to make sure you get everyone on there. You want to make sure you, and it's hard, but I'm finding ways. I'm trying to find that balance. I am, but as soon as I find that balance, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to work on trying to come up with something, that balances out, and trying to keep track when people come out with stuff, so I can do that. And one thing I'm working at is I'm trying to, like, a lot of the wrestlers that I know, I'm trying to share their stuff now. I would rather get on. I'm finding out I'd rather get on and see what everyone else is doing and share their stuff than actually talk about me.
I fall into that too.
But I don't have anything else to really talk about, Anthony. I think I covered all the bases.
Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on, and I know you said you have a hard time talking about yourself, but this is your time. Plug
I,
away. Tell
I
people where they can find you, and if you are watching or listening back, why does my mic sound weird right now? Maybe it's just my ears. I don't know. If all the links are below, so everything to find Everett Lee is all in the description below, so you can follow him at all platforms. But you tell the people where can they find you? When do you post? What's your content cycle? What days are you usually on or live, or how can people find you?
I do Podbeam live stream, audio live stream, which is I do every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on Podbeam. I'll put the link out on my social media on Facebook, Everett Lee Show on Facebook, Twitter at the Everett _Lee. I have Instagram, Everett Lee, which I'm trying to post more and more on there, but it gets hard when you get bots that respond back in 5 minutes. And say,
Yeah. So here's my thing with Instagram and Twitter now. We're actually going back and we're deleting everyone we're following, because I think what happened, I was doing that follow for follow nonsense, and I followed a bunch of bot accounts. Now I don't know how to get like all this nonsense off my timeline. So we're going through and we're wiping everybody. And then I'm going to go back and be like, okay, this person was a legit guest. This person actually supports this person. Like, and I want to go back and then re-add people that I 100% know. So if you look at our podcast thing and you're like, who do they follow? Oh, these are all their previous guests. So we're trying to like make it more an exclusive thing of who we follow. And when you click on that, they're the people we actually want to acknowledge, and not just some random account because they followed us for a follow type deal. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing with Twitter. Yeah, same thing with Twitter. Getting Natasha Vulovic or whatever, check out my sexy pics. It's like block report.
Well, but I'm gonna look at them first, and then then I'm gonna, yeah.
Oh,
unless it sends me to a link, then I don't do that. Yeah.
Facebook. As soon as I get on, I get friend requests like crazy. I don't mind the friend request though, but I'm getting a lot of friend requests from people I don't know. I've
been getting people I do know, and then I add them, and they're like, "Can you really help me out? I'm going through a hard time." I go, "This isn't you," and they're like, "No, can you send me $500?" I'm like, and I just message it. I'm like, "Yo, I think you got hacked. Like you're trying to, like."
Yeah. I had to block a person on Twitter that one of my former early guests from when I started out, from like the first early like 1 through 10 episodes, somewhere in there, was hitting me up. I helped them out. I sent them some money for their film thing, but they kept hitting me up, blowing up my Twitter. I had to block them. Man. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Yeah, but like, you already have the money and funded by now after 5 years of trying to get this movie made. But besides that,
you know how I follow my podcast? I go work for my money. That's how I always follow it.
Yeah, so I had to block them.
Or I make content that people are willing to throw a couple bucks and support me here and there. That's how you make that money.
Exactly. And my podcast is on Podbeam. If you go to podbeam.com, podbeam.com/Everett Lee Show. Actually,
I want to use Podbeam, but you have to pay per podcast, and I have too many podcasts, and it'd be too expensive.
everettleeshow.podbeam.com. It's a good platform. I went to went to one of those Podfest in 2020, and I got to meet the people that run Podbeam. Great people. They're really, really nice, really helpful.
They should make a network feed that you can put a network and control more than one podcast at once and make one price instead of me trying to do 5 shows. It's really, really expensive.
We said something like that to them. They're like, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea." Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mentioned something like that. Still didn't see nothing. But at least I'm not getting shaft like Lipson did. I was only able to put I was paying I forget how much a month for so many megabytes, and I was only putting out 3 audio episodes a month because
I use Anchor. It's completely free.
I like Anchor, but to me it sounds like it, for some reason, I guess it's probably because people use their phones for the podcast. So there's a lot of podcasts on there that sound like shit.
Well, that changed a lot. So you can still have people on Anchor that sound like shit, but it actually got bought by Spotify. So They're like a direct inquiry with Spotify. So as soon as you put your podcast on there, you're right on Spotify. And then they just added
nice.
video, so you can actually upload your video to Anchor. I haven't done it yet, but then people can watch it on Spotify. But I'm like, fuck that. I'm trying to build YouTube. I can't. It's bad enough that I can't get people off Facebook to go subscribe to a YouTube video. I can't start with Spotify now too.
Yeah, that's one thing I started doing. I started going back to straight audio because I like having where I'm doing like a video chat and just straight audio. I enjoy that there because it just I feel more comfortable, more me when I do it. And I like that old like radio style type thing because when you have the audio podcast out there, I think you mentioned this before because I was like, I like what he said here. Anthony's right on. It's like with the audio podcast, it's like you got to keep the audio and the video up at the same time. If one drops, then it's like it's hard to catch back up. And with the audio podcast, you can listen to it anywhere. That's what I like about
I prefer audio more than video, but that people enjoy the video aspect, so it's hard. I tried to dump it and not go back to it, and then as soon as I went back to video, all the listeners came back. So I was like, all right, I committed. I've already given them something. I can't go back. But Everett, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And I appreciate, like, leading up to this, you have been super supportive on the other podcasts and coming in and hanging out with us in the live chat and talking. I do truly appreciate that. I wish you well for the network. I hope it grows. I hope you continue doing what you're doing. And if you ever need anything, man, I'm always here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on tonight. I had a blast. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah, same here, man. I got to learn a lot about you. It was cool to hear your story, and I look forward to talking more wrestling with you. I know you're not in a lot of groups, but come back to Tornado Tag and talk wrestling with us. All right?
Definitely. I'll hold you up to that.
Here is some outro music. We'll see you guys next time. Next Monday, I should probably do this now. Next Monday, we will be having on. We'll both be surprised here because I forgot. Let's see who we got. It's tax day and Easter Monday. Richard Barth is back on the podcast next week at 8:00 live. He was someone who was on the earlier episode of the podcast when my equipment sucked. So it'd be cool to have him back on when we have some nice ones. I believe he's going to be in studio, so we'll be at the table. So that'll be exciting. And then the last episode of the month, we'll be talking with the band Take the Name. So a lot of great content coming up for the rest of this month. And like I said, we should be here every single Monday from now until August. I'm booked till August 1st. So anything after August 1st, I'm open. So if people want to come on the podcast, go on the website, IwEPnetwork.com, and fill that form out. Follow us on all social media. We're trying to get that 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're around 600 or 500. I don't remember, but take a couple seconds. Just head over to our YouTube account, hit that like, our subscribe button. It helps us out a lot. If you can do Patreon, great. We have a merch page on there. You can grab some cool merchandise with my weird face on it, and it'll be a great time. But besides that, this is Interviews with Everyday People, episode 124 with Everett Lee. We'll see you next time. We're out of here.